I think a good story tells the audience something new about themselves, and ideally it should be something that's off diary, something new and fresh that you got from one of your contacts, and then balanced with the opinions of various other industry luminaries.
We're a market and industry that talks a lot about statistics and numbers and figures. However, what I've realised that we'll try to do as an editor is to bring attention to personal stories a lot more.
Good storytelling is something that hooks the reader in straight away and makes them want to keep reading and find out what's going on and why it matters to them.
And I think it's really strong as well to add your own voice, to add your own analysis to the piece as well, because the audience really want to hear that, and that builds the brand and it builds your authority. As journalists at Incisive, we take pride in the craft of storytelling and recognise that it's essential for the success of our business. We understand which stories really matter, what audiences most need to know, and how to find the most compelling way to tell the narrative.
So I've been writing for Professional Pensions for coming up to 3 years, and the story I'm most proud of is actually one I wrote very recently, which was a 5,000-word feature on the story of the BHS pension schemes. I was able to explore a lot of different angles, mixing both colour and detail with some expert sources, including the trustee chairman. This story had plenty of new information with plenty of quirks in there that people hadn't heard of. What was most important to them was actually hearing a first-hand account from the man who was at the centre of this saga about what he experienced and what he found particularly difficult. Our readers particularly enjoyed reading that and learning from those experiences.
And one story in particular, which was very well received, was about Steve Casey, who is a member of the industry who works for a company called Square Health. He unfortunately suffered a stroke, however, was able to recover from that stroke. And so through my relationship with Steve, we decided that it would be a good idea to share his story on the website. And that was a really good example of not just the human aspect and the need for insurance, but also where the industry can perhaps do a little bit better.
We saw a huge spike in public concern about single-use plastics and the impacts they were having on the oceans. This meant that a lot of businesses quickly brought out strategies to reduce their use of plastic, so things like plastic straws were really in the firing line, but we were concerned that perhaps some businesses weren't thinking through the total environmental impacts of what they were doing. So we decided to take a deep dive into the subject and spoke to a lot of different companies and experts involved in this debate, from plastics manufacturers to consumer goods companies and environmental experts.
So recently we did a long-running series of articles around the world's largest construction firm, which is called AECOM. And every journalist needs contacts. That's really the best way to get our stories. So when things happened at AECOM, so for example they decided to outsource their entire IT estate to IBM, whose offices are behind me here, I was known for writing about the firm. So a lot of inside sources came directly to me to basically spill the beans on what was going on, and that resulted in a long-running series of articles.
One of the most successful tools we've introduced over the past year has been our Brexit blog. This is a live feed of articles, commentary, analysis, charts and tweets, allowing us to provide Investment Week's readers with the very latest news on Brexit and the implications for their business.
In the B2B world, you can get into much more detail than you might be able to do in the national press, which means you become, as a journalist, can become an expert on your topic area, which is both good for you and good for your readers. I think most important is being able to get into the nitty-gritty, but also presenting it in a fairly simple way.
We use a range of formats to tell our stories, from good old-fashioned breaking news to long-form narratives, infographics, videos and podcasts. We're always looking for new ways to make our stories as accessible as possible for our time-poor users. And apart from desktop and mobile, we use every social media platform that asset managers and fund selectors are using, as well as the still popular weekly magazine and live events, including conferences and award shows.
I think it's really important to let people know what's happening in the world around them and being able to tell a good story around why people should care about issues.
In the AECOM case, it was telling the audience something new about something that was happening in the industry, something very wide-reaching. And I think it's interesting to two sectors of the audience for various reasons. So first of all, it's interesting to IT workers everywhere, because they want to hear about major redundancies happening elsewhere in the sector. It makes them better able to predict redundancies happening elsewhere, perhaps in their own firms. It's also really interesting to the C-suite, because in this case, this was a case of a massive outsourcing deal, a huge company outsourcing its entire IT estate. And for the C-suite, that's really interesting, because they'll be thinking, well, should we be doing that too? That's a massive potential cost saving. Is that a good strategy? So that they look on with interest to see how it unfolds. And of course, in this case, it unfolded very badly.
holding people to account, advisors holding who they buy products from and who they go to, who their clients specifically buy products from, making sure that they know everything that they need to know and not just what providers want them to know is really important.
One of the pleasures of editing Investment Week is the ability not just to write about topics that matter to our readers, but campaigning for change too. I'm particularly proud of our contribution we've made to championing diversity, and it's really encouraging to see that asset managers are beginning to realise the more diverse and inclusive their businesses are, the more successful they will be.
I became a journalist because I always really enjoyed learning about new things and speaking to new people, and it's a job that always keeps you guessing and every day is different.
I like the experience and the process of speaking to various different people, all with different angles and areas of expertise.
Our role as financial journalists, specifically B2B journalists, is to disseminate information to our readers so that they're able to make the well-informed decisions they need to take on a day-to-day basis, particularly in this volatile economic world.
Being a journalist means that each working day is very different. You're always working on diverse stories, building a fresh contact or learning something new. And the work is extremely valuable as well, because you're giving the audience something they really need. And if you're doing it right, you're giving them something they can't get elsewhere. So whether you're finishing a major feature, finishing a major bit of research, or working on a new exclusive, you're always doing something different and exciting. It's a really varied and exciting and rewarding career.